Hello world, I am Curtis Simpson, and this is the first time ever. This is a flip through magazine review live. Today we are going to be doing for the first time a flip through magazine review. I apologize if I said book review. This is not a book review. This is BLAG, Better Letters magazine. This is issue number 8. It's from winter 2025, and I am going to treat this like we did our book reviews before this and just go through every page on this. This is not a sponsored review. None of my book reviews have been, and none of them ever will be. But this was sent to me for review by the editor, which is Sam Roberts. That is him right there. So thank you, Sam, for this. I really enjoyed it, and we are going to start the review now. The first thing to note is there is a nice little insert in here that's related to this cover art here. So I'm going to go ahead and open this. I don't think it's all going to fit on screen, but we'll probably get enough of it. Let's start with this side. This is a skateboard. And much like everything in the magazine, it is hand-painted. It looks very nice. This is a nice piece of art, just in general. But the cool thing about this is, that's how you know it's live. The cool thing about this is that it actually has the breakdown. So I found it really interesting. This is the typography channel. I am not familiar with sign painting in its techniques or any of its terminology or anything like that. So this was a real introduction for me. But I like that you could see all of the light sources, and they showed how they created this. This was done by Jill Strong. There's her name right there, Jill Strong. I thought that this was really interesting, and this was the first thing that you'll see when you open up the magazine is this insert right here that goes to the cover, and it walks through each one of the steps, and I thought it was really interesting, and it seems like a really interesting welcoming community to be sharing these types of secrets. Not something you see quite as often in other creative fields. So I thought that was pretty cool. But here we are. Like I said, this is winter 2025, issue number 8. This magazine comes out twice a year, so I think there's a winter and a summer edition. There are no advertisements in this. So if we flip through real quick, you'll see this is all sign painting, all lettering, all articles. There are no advertisements in that. Sam told me that was something that he wanted to do from the beginning. I did interview Sam, so I've got a few notes from that I'll talk about. But this is the world's only print online publication dedicated to sign painting. It wasn't always the case, but now it is. So right here, we've got some, the editor's letter, the contents. I want to get moving through this, but I do want to point out the typefaces here. We've got Dalton Moggs, Active Grotesque, and then we've got Contours, Utile. Someone let me know. There's the cover right there. But so this is kind of how it goes. I'll just give you a little bit of my notes and what these articles are about, just very, very briefly. But if you want to get these, the link is in the description. It is bl.ag to purchase any of the editions. So this here is someone who is no longer with us. This is someone who passed, and it was written by the original sign painters' children, Alex and Philip Rearick Jr. So it's pretty cool. It kind of goes through like past, present, past and present. Ghost signs. This is where it all started for Sam. So Sam's the creator of this magazine, but Sam Roberts, I'll mention him many times because he is the editor, and I did interview him in relation to this review. Ghost Signs of Melbourne is a book by Sean Reynolds, but Ghost Signs, A London Story, I believe that's what it's called. I apologize, Sam, if that's not the right title. That was what came before the magazine. But ghost signs themselves, these signs right here, old signs on buildings. If you're from the US, you'll definitely recognize these. I grew up in the Midwest, so I saw these all the time. And I always thought they were cool. I never, I always just kind of imagined what they might be. And apparently there is a whole community around these. And that is where this whole story starts, was the ghost signs, ghost signs. I guess I could give you a quick little quick little breakdown here, but they started with the ghost signs, and it was like the preservation and finding them and cataloging them and stuff like that. There's a big community of people doing this. But Sam got really into it, and then it was kind of like, do we preserve these? Even if we preserve these, like, doesn't it make sense to like teach the craft so more of them can be made, so more sign painting can be made? So partnered up with Mike Meyer, did like 200 workshops, and then where they were teaching people how to do sign painting and over several years. And then the pandemic came, COVID came, and that all shut down. He wrote the book that we just talked about. And then after that, Signcraft, another sign painting magazine, went out of publication, went out of print. It's only online now. And so he decided to step up where they left off and put out this magazine. I really liked this. This is one of the first, you've seen, I've only gotten through like 2 pages so far, but this right off the bat set the tone for me. This is an article about Greta Lindsay, and she is a sign painter, as you can see, who does these festival signs. She also does other signage, but this article is mainly about the festival signs. And I just found it so interesting. It made me very jealous that everything I do is essentially digital, just like having your hands on stuff. I think as many of us get older, we have our hands very much more on the keyboard than we do on any paint or brushes or anything tactile. So this immediately I'm in. And the story here is really cool. I don't have time to really get into it, but she was painting like 1,000 of these signs for one festival, and then she goes to another festival where she can kind of slow down and paint some really cool, more unique signs and stuff like that. But wayfinding via sign painting, very, very cool. I was interested. I was surprised to see this here. I was surprised to see letter carving, but there are some things in here that aren't entirely sign painting. I guess these are signs in some way, but there is that overlap with letter carving and lettering in general, and sign painting and typography. And that's why I'm doing this review in the first place, because I do think that there is, I told Sam, it's almost like we live in parallel worlds where like sign painting and lettering and typography, like they're in these columns and they interact, but they aren't really the same thing. And he put it very, very elegantly and said that like they do this dance where like sign painting takes a little from typography, and the typography takes a little from sign painting. And I thought that was very well put. These here, immediately you'll recognize these, right? They look like grocery store signs, but it's actually an interesting campaign that was done. If you read them, it's a quality of life report for the Calgary Foundation, and they're using that traditional sign painting to kind of represent that. I thought these here were really cool. Again, they're giving ingredients and methods to be doing this. You're not going to be able to see it too well on the screen, but they're doing the etching into this glass, man, the etching ends up being in the background there underneath the blue, but just the amount of detail and I don't know, like the chemistry and the paints and the etching into glass, like that kind of stuff is so tactile and so cool. This is interesting right here. This one here, like, typically we think of sign painting, we think of these giant things, but we've all seen these pool rules before, right? On a beach where they're sign painted. Those are actually back here a little ways. You can see the full alphabet right here. This is from Rob Cooper, and I thought it was pretty cool that this was included. I just happened to notice that they both go together. I do think they could have been closer together in the magazine. That would have made more sense for me, but there is some really cool stuff in here. This is a fake poster to kind of help sell, or fake sign painting to help one of his friends rent a space that had been empty. This here is actually a restoration. So you can see the ghost sign right here, and they're painting over it. I'm restoring it, looking back at old photos and trying to make it as accurate as possible. But it's really, really cool. And there's a lot of interesting detail and things like that you kind of forget what it's like to read a magazine. If you're like me, I'm a millennial. I read magazines when I was a kid, when I was coming of age and stuff like that. But at a certain point, you just start looking at everything on Instagram, or you start looking at everything on Tumblr for a while. And you forget what it's like to feel an actual printed magazine. and you forget what it's like to flip through it at your own pace. I saw a comment, or I heard a comment on a podcast recently where somebody said, I feel like my algorithm, my feed is attacking me when I open up a social media app. And this is just the complete opposite. You know, you slow down and you can read the articles at the pace you want. For me, I flipped through the whole thing and then I started reading the ones that I was actually, you know, most drawn to, and then I'd flip back through. I did read the entire thing. This one here, someone we've talked about, an organization we've talked about on the channel several times, Letterform Archive, put together these this article here, the designs of Dorothy and Otis Shepherd. Really, really interesting stuff. Another thing about this compared to social media, and Sam pointed this out, is you have this reference that you can come back to. You can put this on your shelf, you can flip back to it. You're probably never ever going to do that with a newsletter or a Tumblr post or a Pinterest pin, or, you know, even if you bookmark stuff on Instagram, like how often are you like looking back at those? Whereas a book or a magazine, you'll probably go back to. This was something that I noticed immediately and complimented Sam, and he did tell me this was very intentional on his part, and that is to make the magazine international. So you can see Hong Kong up here. Typically on these pages, you will see it up on the top right. So I'm going to go ahead and flip through this pretty quick, but we can see some Hong Kong street signs. Very nice. So typically what you'll see is this right here, lettering locations, that's the series, hand-painted signs of Lamu, hopefully I'm saying that right. And then you'll see the country right here, Kenya. So it's really cool. If you flip through this, you'll probably see at least 12 different, 20, maybe 20 different countries on here. I didn't count them all, but you really do get, I mean, we just went from Hong Kong to Kenya, and you're getting two distinctly different types of styles, but it's really interesting just to be exposed to these things, because there's no way you're going to be scrolling through your feed and see these two things back to back. But the sign painting and the stories and the histories and stuff, it just, it really is a change of pace. This here was probably my favorite section, remembering Russ Thomas, A Life in Signs. And he's got some, they're calling these fun fairs. So this one's in the UK. In the US, we would just call it, I don't know, just a fair, I think. I always just called it the fair. But you've probably seen these types of signs before, and these just, I mean, I bounce back and forth. Like, should I call these beautiful? Should I call these perfect? Like, in my opinion, these are perfect. I know there's no, you know, it's all subjective. This is a review after all. But I just love these. And that's not, you can imitate this with digital, but like the metallic print or the metallic paint on there, you know, the way that you're getting the gradients inside of there with actual physical paint, it's just not the same as digital. And I don't know, there's something really special about this, seeing this. There's the spread right there that we saw, the center fold that we saw earlier with the pool rules lettering. Fine arts of painting signs. This was an interesting one. I did not expect this. I know I'm saying everything in here is interesting, but it is. And this is paintings of signs. So there are a few different artists in here that are in this section here, and they're broken apart with the little blue subheads there. But these are all paintings of signs in real life. Some of them are not real in life. These here, obviously, are not real life. But they're being used lettering as protest right here. Silence equals death, speak up, read banned books. I think the read banned books one is really cool because we've all seen the signs with, I don't know if you would call that corrugated. Is that corrugated? Where you see like those, the folds on like the sign, the white part that would be illuminated. But using that as the book's pages is really interesting. It's probably not something that you would do unless you were making art like this. So I really liked that one. But you can see there is a huge variety of what's in this. It's not just a book that's like, or not just a magazine that's like all one things. But even these here, these are paintings, and they're being used to how would you say it? To keep this like legacy alive, basically. Yeah. Oh, this one was fun too. South Korea. So there isn't like a huge sign painting, community that I'm aware of, at least according to this article, in South Korea. And most of the people that were living there were not necessarily even, they didn't even pay attention to these signs. But there's like a very specific, almost like a calling card for these types of signs. And it's like put the name in black, put the phone number in red, and then make it like a bluish gray outline around it. And one of the cool things is that they noted was that blue outline actually started out as a wooden signboard. So they would put like a 2x4 basically, or probably thinner than that, but like a piece of wood, 4 pieces of wood around it to kind of frame it, and those would be in that blue color. And then when the wooden frames stopped being put on there, the sign painters, just out of habit, kept painting that blue around the outside, which I think is pretty cool. But this is kind of like a mystery. Like they never figured out actually where this started, who started this trend, why this trend exists. And most of the people that were interviewed when they came across these, they didn't, they had some theories, but no one ever really figured out the answer. So it's pretty fun. Local gatherings. I am not someone that is like really a fan of graffiti, but I did find this article here interesting. So I think that's another reason to read BLAG. If you are someone that wants some creative inspiration, like I find seeds in almost everything that I read, but reading something like this about what were they calling this? Style writing, and graffiti. I would never like look at this and think like, oh yeah, that looks cool. Or like even this here, like I used to look at the graffiti on the trains when they went by my house and stuff like that, but I never really, I guess I kind of grew out of it. Like I thought it was cool when I was a kid in the 90s, but I never really got into graffiti and stuff. But the ideas that are presented in here do make some compelling points, and I was left with more to think about for sure. So another one right here. This is another rabbit hole to go down, and this looks like it's part 7. So this is my first introduction to BLAG. This is issue number 8, but this says part 7, the secrets of fileteado porteño, fileteado porteño, and it is a very specific folk painting style from Buenos Aires, Argentina, and they paint. This is a swan. Like I would have never guessed that this was a swan, but it's a very specific style, and they're teaching you how to do it. I think last week, last issue, they said they learned how to do a dragon, but it's really cool. Once again, like I feel like the community is very welcoming, probably because they're trying to keep the art alive. If they don't teach people how to do this, if they don't teach others how to do it, the secrets will all die with them. So I think that goes with anything, but it's pretty cool to see how much is being shared in this magazine. This here is very similar to On the Brush, like we saw in the beginning of the episode. It's more small stories, and I like these small stories. You just get like a little glimpse into it, and it kind of gives you something to walk away with and think about, and it also gives you some people to go look up. I mean, there are so many names in here that I'm gonna go look up afterwards, and so many books. This is the book club section right here, and you can see this one here is Doyle David Butler's book. This is 272 pages with 600 distinct designs. Even when I was flipping through this on the couch, my wife, I get to this page, who cares nothing about graphic design or typography or lettering. I get to this page, she goes, oh, that's cool. Like, I think stuff like this can be a good introduction to people, even that aren't super type nerds or sign painting nerds, like those of us watching this video right now. Stuff like this can get other people into it. But it's really, really cool to see the variety of things that are included in this magazine, the variety of places that are in this magazine. This here, the American Sign Museum. You may have seen this book released recently. These are things from the American Sign Museum, like the actual sign museum. I believe it's in Cincinnati. I could be wrong. But these are just beautiful. This here, again, this is called glue chipping, and I know you're not going to be able to see it on the screen, but but man, they put this glue on there that as it gets hot, and then as it cools, it like chips the glass, and it's got these super intricate patterns and stuff on it. It's insane. And this here, I don't know what the technical term for this, but I think of this as like undressed letters, where you've kind of got like this on top and then the top is undressed. Man, the intricacies, and like, you just don't see this type of stuff right now, because everybody wants things done real fast. And with sign painting, it's not going to happen real fast unless it's a grocery store sign. No, there are different kinds of sign painting, but those there, it's just a different level of it's just a different level of creative endeavor, compared to what many of us probably do: graphic design, typography, typesetting, stuff like that. But yeah, some more pieces from the American Sign Museum. We're getting close to the end. I was surprised to see this one, Brazil. I'm American, but I'm living in Brazil right now, and Santa Catarina is just below me here where I'm at. So it was cool to see a book from there. I did look that up afterwards, but it's sign painting throughout the state there. It's pretty interesting. Mexico and USA here. And we're getting close to the end. These are sundries. These are just little stories that are at the end. A sign painter who accidentally cut off his finger there. And to close this out here, some interesting tools of the trade. This was in an old book, and it was the towers that they would use to do the sign painting. Like, you've probably seen those giant murals, the ghost signs that we talked about right up front. You've probably seen these on the side of like tall buildings, but you probably didn't think, like, how did they get up there and do that? They had these old machines, and they would be sold in magazines. This one's got like a couple of wheels on it, so you could move it around. But like that part there would slide up and down there, and they've got wheels on the bottom. Really interesting, really, really interesting. And then a comic to close the thing out. And a couple of online articles here spotlighted. I did ask Sam because there is an online publication. There's a weekly newsletter. The weekly newsletter has like 5,000 subscribers. This magazine has about 600, I think he told me. And I did ask him, like, what's the overlap between the online articles, the newsletter, and the magazine? He said, essentially nothing. Nothing in here is going to be online. What you can do, though, is you can subscribe to the newsletter for free, or you can subscribe to the magazine. You can become a paying member, and then you'll get these twice a year. And if you're a member, if you have a membership, you'll be able to read the old digital versions. So while nothing in here overlaps, when the next issue does come out, you can read the previous issue online in its digital form if you are a member, if you're subscribed. So right now, like, you could go back and read the digital version of issue 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. When issue 9 comes out, then you'll be able to read this one digitally online. And that is going to be it for this flip through magazine review of BLAG, Better Letters magazine. Let me just check my notes real quick and make sure I didn't miss anything. No, that's going to be it. So this was the first time I've ever tried this. My goal with this, sorry, Sam, you were kind of the guinea pig here. But my goal with this is to be able to do more book reviews. And if I can do them live, I think that it would be more interactive and more interesting. And I think I could get way more of them out. I know that this is not going to be quite as good as my typical book reviews, but those take a really long time to do. And as you can see, I only have a few of them on the channel. So I think if I could get this to be about 80% as good as my pre-recorded ones, I think that would be a perfect trade-off to be able to get way more book reviews done, which I know many of you are subscribed for. So once again, I have been Curtis Simpson, and this was the Flip Through magazine review of BLAG, Winter 2025, issue number